Alrighty, hi, my name's Kate. I go by Ghosty Online, and I'm gonna make a video today, doing something that I hope to be doing more of in the future, maybe a lot of in the future, and just kind of going into a story from my past, like a true story, something that happened to me, and I guess it's kind of just fun for me to reminisce about. Uh, Sorry, Ghost is going crazy over here. It's kind of just fun for me to reminisce, but maybe there'll be fun stories for other people to hear too. So if you're watching, I hope you enjoy. I was just kind of thinking about recently some of the old jobs that I've had. I've had a lot of different jobs in my time. I started working when I was like 16. Like as soon as I could get a job, I got a job at a grocery store, and I was just bagging groceries and doing carts and stuff. But the job I wanted to talk about today was actually when I worked for Dish Network. Uh, so I guess to preface this, I've never really struggled with tight spaces. Like even when I was a kid, I would never have considered myself like a claustrophobic person. Um, I have always been on the small-ish side, so I could always like kind of squeeze through things, and it never really bothered me. Even caves and stuff, like in the scouts, whenever we would go to caves and things, it never bothered me. I always had a good time, and I still to this day, really love the idea of like cave exploring or especially underwater cave exploring. I think would be really cool. Anyways, so not really a claustrophobic person. Um, when I was 19 years old, I went to go work for Dish, and this was like right after I had initially dropped out of college, and I say dropped out like lightly. I was still attending school or planning to attend school at the time. Um, anyway, so I picked up this job at Dish as a technician when I was 19 years old. I was at that time the youngest ever, hopefully still the youngest ever Dish technician, which meant that whenever I was done with my training, they basically handed me the keys to a van, and I would check in to a way station to pick up supplies and things like that, like once or twice a week, if I remember correctly. It would depend. Regardless, so I was a remote technician, so I kind of worked from home. I would wake up from home and leave from home to go to work, but I would most of the time have my van, and so uh, I go through this job. I worked there for quite a while, almost a year, and my job was to install whole system cable networks, and specifically cable networks that were designed to work with a dish. So a lot of it was getting up on top of rooftops and installing dishes, like literally installing a dish on the roof, calibrating it, and then installing the cable systems. A lot of it was like trouble calls. So like if a person had an issue with their system, then we would get called out to like work on their house. And so naturally, considering that we're going up on the roof and we're messing with their cabling and we're dropping cables through walls, where there was a lot of attic work, and that was something again that had never bothered me. Attics are pretty rough here in Texas. If we don't have basements here. The ground is generally not solid enough. So instead, we do attics, and of course, most houses have attics, but we store all of our crap up in the attics. Um, and the attics get incredibly hot in the summer. Like I couldn't even tell you, well over 110 degrees for sure. And so it was a lot of crawling around in very hot attics. However, there was this one home that I was working on. It was the middle of the summer. It was an older home that there was the family that was living there was an older couple, was trying to restore. I want to say it was like a late 19th century home, so like a really old home, like stone walls, the whole bit. And as a result, they had the original roof, or at least an older roof, and it was very short. Like the attic space was very squat, and you had to kind of crawl through it. Um, and this is where I unlocked a new fear. Um, I remember I was crawling through the attic, and it got really tight, and I tried to sit up, and I was wearing a hard hat, and my hat hit the roof of the ceiling, or the top of the ceiling, the roof, and I felt a nail kind of jab me in the back because I don't know if you know this. A lot of the time, if you're in an attic, there's just a bunch of nails that are just hanging out through the ceiling. So I go up and I get pierced by a nail, and I think to myself, okay, well, I can't go up. And I actually started to panic a little bit because I felt kind of stuck in this space. And so I started to say, fuck, okay, I'll get out of this, I'm okay. And I started saying this out loud without really realizing it, really realizing how stressed out I was. And so I was saying out loud, very kind of quietly in a muffled tone, fuck, okay, I got to figure out where to go. I got to figure out where to put this. Where's this thing? I can't find it. Because I was, I was reaching for something. I was trying to find something in the attic through the wall. And, I was sweating bullets. It was like 120 degrees up in the attic or something like that. And I remember just suddenly hearing the homeowner's voice calling out from down below me, down on the ground floor of the house. Hey, you all right up there? Like, literally having heard me out loud saying, fuck, 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 like I'm stuck, I don't know what to do. I was stressing out, I was really anxious, and he heard all of that, and I was so embarrassed. But, since then I've noticed that tight spaces have become more of an issue for me, I guess. Like, it was maybe a year ago now. I was kind of on a long-ish car ride, like a 30-minute to an hour-long car ride, which here in Texas is a very short car ride. And I was in a smaller car, and so I was kind of squat. And towards the end of it, I started to kind of get anxious and panic, like, "Oh, am I going to be able to get out of this?" And it's a difficult feeling to explain, especially as someone who initially had no issues with this kind of thing, and I guess through experience, kind of developed sort of a fear. I wouldn't say it's an irrational fear, because obviously being stuck in a tight space can be really scary for some people. Some people it means kaput. You know what I mean? So, luckily it wasn't that for me. Obviously, it wasn't a very dire situation. But now I seem to be somewhat averse to cubby holes and tight spaces. Hopefully that won't be too much of a theme going forward. I don't think I'm going to be crawling around much in attics going forward with my life. Hopefully. But yeah, so that was a fun little story from my working days working at Dish Network and installing whole home cable systems and trying to shill shitty their shitty sound bars that they were trying to get us to sell to everybody. Yeah, good times. I was 19 years old and they gave me the responsibility. They thought it was a good idea to give a 19-year-old the responsibility of a company van, and they gave me a company van, a company phone. And of course, it wasn't given to me. I gave it all back, but at least $5,000 worth of equipment in the back of that van, which would of course would increase or decrease depending on what kind of boxes, DVRs, and things I had in my van. Crazy, and I was 19 years old. But anyway, fun times. Hopefully, this was a fun little story for you. Thanks so much for watching. See ya.